Namaste, Hamesha Khushro Bitia. I am JVN Dr. Meenakshi, Assistant Professor in Department of Shalakya Tantra, Faculty of Ayurvedic Science, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. Today in this session, we will discuss the hypertensive retinopathy. So, it refers to the fundus changes occurring in the patient suffering from systemic hypertension. What is the pathogenesis of hypertensive retinopathy? Three factors which play a role in the pathogenesis of hypertensive retinopathy are vasoconstriction, arteriosclerosis, and third one is the increased vascular permeability. So the first factor is the vasoconstriction. The primary response of the retinal arterioles to raised blood pressure is narrowing, means vasoconstriction, and is related to the severity of hypertension. It occurs in pure form in young individuals but is affected by the pre-existing involutional sclerosis in old patients. Then the second factor is the arteriosclerotic changes, which manifest as changes in arteriolar reflex and AV nipping result from thickening of the vessel wall and are a reflection of the duration of hypertension. In older patients, arteriosclerotic changes may pre-exist due to involutional sclerosis. Then the third important factor is the increased vascular permeability. It results from hypoxia and is responsible for hemorrhages, exudates, and focal retinal edema. The next point is the grading of hypertensive retinopathy. Keith and Wagner in 1939 have classified hypertensive retinopathy changes into following four grades. The grade 1. It consists of mild generalized arteriolar attenuation, particularly of small branches, with broadening of the arteriolar light reflex and vein concealment. The next is the grade 2. It comprises marked generalized narrowing and focal attenuation of arterioles associated with deflection of veins at arteriovenous crossings. It is called the Salus line sign. Then there is grade 3. This consists of grade 2 changes plus copper wiring of arterioles, banking of veins distal to arteriovenous crossings, bonnet sign. The tapering of veins on either side of the crossings, it is called the gun sign. And right angle deflection of veins is called the salute sign. So flame shaped hemorrhages, cotton wool spots, and hard exudates are also present. Then grade 4. This consists of all the changes of grade 3 plus silver wiring of arterioles and papilloedema. So here is an image of the hypertensive retinopathy A, B, C, D. A show the grade 1, B may show the grade 2, C shows the grade 3, and D shows the grade 4. In the A image, there is grade 1. It consists of the mild generalized arteriolar attenuation, and particularly of the small branches, with broadening of the arteriolar light reflex and vein concealment. Then there is the B image which shows the grade 2, grade 2 of hypertensive retinopathy. It comprises marked generalized narrowing and the focal attenuation of arterioles associated with deflection of veins at arteriovenous crossings. Then there is grade 3. Grade 3, the C image. This consists of the grade second changes plus the copper wiring of the arterioles, banking of veins distal to the arteriovenous crossings, tapering of veins on either side of the crossings, and right angle deflection of veins, and flame shaped hemorrhages and cotton wool spots you can see in this, white spots and hard exudates. In grade 4, it consists of all the changes of grade 3 plus the silver wiring of the arterioles and papilla edema. Then what are the clinical types of hypertensive retinopathy? The clinically hypertensive retinopathy may occur in four circumstances. First is the hypertension with involutionary or senile sclerosis. When hypertension occurs in elderly patients after the age of 50 years in the presence of involutionary sclerosis, the fundus changes comprise the augmented arteriosclerotic retinopathy. Then second circumstance is the hypertension without sclerosis. It occurs in young patients, young people, where elastic retinal arterioles are exposed to raised blood pressure for a short duration. There are few retinal signs. The arterioles are constricted, pale and straight with acute angle branching. There are minimal signs of arteriovenous crossings. Occasionally small hemorrhages may be found. Exudates and papilloedema are never seen. Then the third circumstance, the hypertension with compensatory arteriolar sclerosis. This condition is seen in young patients with prolonged benign hypertension, usually associated with benign nephrosclerosis. The young arterioles respond by proliferating when fibrous changes in the media. Advanced fundus changes in these patients have been described as albuminuric or renal retinopathy. Then malignant hypertension. It is not a separate variety of hypertension, but it is an expression of its rapid progression to a serious degree in a patient with relatively young arterioles, undefended by fibrosis. The fundus picture is characterized by marked arteriolar narrowing, papilla edema, retinal edema over the posterior pole, clusters of superficial flame-shaped hemorrhages, and an abundance of cotton wool patches. So these were the clinically there were four circumstances in which the hypertensive retinopathy may occur. The next is the retinopathy in pregnancy-induced hypertension. Pregnancy-induced hypertension, which is called the PIH, previously known as the toxemia of pregnancy, is a disease of unknown etiology characterized by raised blood pressure, proteinuria, and generalized edema. Retinal changes are liable to occur in this condition when the blood pressure rises above 160 by 100 mm of Hg and are marked when blood pressure rises above 200 by 130 mm of Hg. And earliest changes consist of the narrowing of nasal arterioles followed by generalized narrowing. Severe persistent spasm of vessels causes retinal hypoxia, characterized by appearance of cotton wool spots and superficial hemorrhages. If pregnancy is allowed to continue, further progression of retinopathy occurs rapidly. Retinal edema and exudation is usually marked and may be associated with macular star or flat macular detachment. Rarely, it may be complicated by bilateral exudative retinal detachment. Prognosis for retinal attachment is good, as it occurs spontaneously within a few days of termination of pregnancy. The next is the management. The changes of retinopathy are reversible and disappear after the delivery unless organic vascular disease is established. Therefore, in pre-organic stage, when patient responds well to a conservative treatment, the pregnancy may justifiably be continued under close observation. However, the advent of hypoxic retinopathy, means soft exudates, retinal edema, and hemorrhages, should be considered an indication for termination of pregnancy. Otherwise, permanent vision loss or even loss of life of both the mother and fetus may occur. So here completes our session of hypertensive retinopathy. Thank you so much. This session is powered by digital version 2.0, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my session. If you have any query, please mention in the comment box. I will resolve it. Thank you so much.
Vascular code, and it is beneath the sclera. Then microscopic structure of choroid from out from out inwards. It is a suprachoroidal lamina. Firstly, the suprachoroidal lamina is a thin membrane of condensed collagen, melanocytes, and fibroblast. The potential space between this layer and the sclera is called the suprachoroidal space. Second layer is the stroma of the choroid. It consists of loose collagenous tissue with some elastic and reticulum fibers containing pigment cells and plasma cells. In addition, vessels are found and are arranged in three layers. The first layer is a layer of large vessels, which is also called the Haller's layer. Second layer is a layer of medium vessels, the Sattler's layer. Third layer is a layer of choriocapillaries. And the third layer of choroid is the basal lamina. It is also called the Bruch's membrane and lines a layer of choriocapillaries. Here in this image you see the various layers of the choroid. And then comes the blood supply of the uveal tract. Actually the choroid is the part of the uvea or uveal tract. Blood supply are short posterior ciliary arteries and which are the branches of ophthalmic artery. It divides into 10 to 20 branches, pairs sclera around the optic nerve, supply choroid in segmental manner, and another artery will supply the uveal tract is long posterior ciliary arteries. There are two in number, nasal and temporal. They pierce the sclera. The anastomose with anterior ciliary arteries form major arterial circle, supply ciliary body. And then arteries will supply the uveal tract or anterior ciliary arteries. They are from the muscular arteries. There are 7 in number, 2 each for superior rectus, inferior rectus, medial rectus, and 1 from the lateral rectus. The anastomose with the LPCA. LPCA is the long posterior ciliary arteries. The circulus anterior, majors, and minor. Then the venous drainage of the uveal tract, uveal tissue, the vena verticosa, the vortex veins or the posterior ciliary veins. They are 4 in number, superior temporal, inferior temporal, superior nasal and inferior nasal. They pierce sclera obliquely on each side of the superior rectus and inferior rectus muscles about 6 mm behind the equator. As you can see in the image, the blue color veins are the vortex veins. These are the venous drainage of the uvea. The 2 superior vortex veins open into the superior ophthalmic vein and the 2 inferior vortex veins open into the inferior ophthalmic vein. They both drain into cavernous sinus. Then last point is the functions of choroid. The blood supply to the outer 4 layers of retina and modulation of vascularization, regulate retinal heat, assist in the control of intraocular pressure, pigment absorbs the excess light, so avoid reflection. Thank you so much. This session is powered by digital version 2.0, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please mention in the comment box. I will resolve it soon.